Hey guys, Untouchable here. Welcome back to the channel. And welcome to me and Diamond off the beaten path. We are in Sugarcreek, Ohio at the Victoria Crossing train car hotel or motel, however you say it. But check this out, man. This is my room for the night. This place. It's got a queen bed and everything. This is awesome. But yeah, we got here about 2:30. And I'm just chilling in here. Ben's with his mom. His mom paid for most of it, and we both gave some. So we're going to enjoy a couple nights down here and go see the Age of Steam Roundhouse tomorrow. More on that tomorrow. Hey guys, Untouchable here. Welcome back to the channel. And welcome finally back to the Age of Steam Roundhouse in Sugarcreek, Ohio. Check out this decapod I'm standing in front of right here. This is a 210. That's what a decapod is. 2 leading trucks, 10 driving wheels, and no trailing. What a sight to behold. This is a beauty. It's huge. To kind of give you guys a comparison, I'll flip the camera around so you can see. We're back. This is going to be fun. There you go. Let's get a shot of it. Alright guys, after an absence of a couple of years, I'm back at the Age of Steam Roundhouse. I'm inside the depot in the Jacobson Gallery for locomotives. Check out the Stoker piece. I'll take you guys around. I'll try and be quiet though. I tell you guys, these train orders and this paperwork never gets any easier to do. Look at this. Gotta fill all this out, then I gotta fill this out, then I gotta fill all that out before the trip is done. Things are being a conductor. So here's the view on the inside of the cupola, guys. This is exactly the same kind of caboose that's in Amherst, or the ones that's in Fairlane Yard. Exact same one, so it's kind of cool. Give you an idea, there's the depot where I was just at. If I go this way, you can see the roundhouse in the foreground. There you go. I'll be going in there at 1. Here's the caboose I was in, guys. We're gonna go in this rail car next.
Don't do it anymore.
Yeah, they dare.
I'm in the passenger car now, guys. Check it out. I feel like the conductor from Polar Express, sort of. It's awesome. So this is a Burlington car. Here's the view. There's the steam locomotive from earlier. There's the back end of it. There's the roundhouse. Kind of give you an idea how massive the roundhouse is. There you go. That's like the shop area. Here's the actual roundhouse right here. You can already see one of the steam locomotives way in there. Hold on. There's one way in there. They're all there. Every single one of them. Too bad I can't see in the windows that well with the camera. So guys, Ben here is going to ring this bell. Alright. Oh, listen to that thing ring. Alright guys, we're making our way to the Age of Steam Roundhouse. And we have entered the roundhouse, folks. We have entered the roundhouse. Locomotives as far as the eye can see.
This is Jerry Jacobson's dream of having a proper place to display his collection of steam and diesel locomotives and various other things. If you look over here by the window, you'll see a lot of parts, tools, and such laid out. We have examples of all three of the builders, the major builders, none of which could agree on the same pitch, taper, number of threads, and the shape of the threads for stud work, that kind of thing. So we're obliged to keep a lot of stuff here that you wouldn't typically find in a not so much a museum, but a roundhouse that had more equipment of the same builder. We didn't have the luxury of being able to go someplace and purchasing a roundhouse full of equipment, such as was done with the museum in Strasburg, Pennsylvania. That's the historic collection of engines of the Pennsylvania Railroad at Strasburg. And because of that, most of that equipment is all pretty much similar in the way it was maintained and built by the Pennsylvania Railroad. A lot of that was built at Juniata in Altoona. In our case, Jerry was able to purchase whenever something came up. 13 behind me was a West Virginia engine. Is there anybody here from West Virginia today? No one? 13 spent all of its commercial life in West Virginia. 6325 is a Michigan engine, worked for the Grand Trunk, and we have it as a nice display of a modern high-speed, high-horsepower locomotive, similar in function to our Burke, our nickel plate locomotive. Now, we have worked to produce essentially a time capsule here. Does it look like that? There was never, 15 years ago, there was never anything here. This was all floodplain, not wetlands, mind you, but a floodplain. You're standing about 5 foot higher than the ground that we started with 15 years ago. The first year that we prepped this facility, the ground here was spent doing nothing but bringing in fill to raise the ground. Now, on the occasion of having all the doors and windows in place, we had our first 100-year flood, which probably proved the wisdom of raising the ground. If you flew over this place in an airplane, it would look like it was an island. Now, the only downside of that is the idea that our sump pumps in the turntable pit that you'll see out here were not wired. We had a 5 foot deep swimming pool, folks, which was great. One of our guys had been slogging around in the mud. He jumped in there to get the mud rinsed off of his coveralls and such, and nobody got a picture, so we can't prove that. The windows are an out-of-country contractor, a Canadian firm. Jerry decided he wanted wooden windows. Now, any of you folks that have dealt with wooden windows realize that there's a lot of maintenance involved with those things. We would have had to employ a couple of people 40 hours a week doing nothing but window maintenance. So we talked Jerry out of that, and these have worked out well. They are thermopane. Now, the strips back and forth there are cosmetic. The panes there are about 3.5 square, and if something broke, we'd just take one of the squares out and put a new one in, that sort of thing. So far, we're doing pretty well. The wood and such that are up here in the ceiling, Jerry was not a fan of steel in construction. That's why there's so much red and white oak here. Was at one time the largest timber frame building that had been built recently, and still pretty much is. We have done some bracing to make sure everything stays in place. We were probably a little early in putting some of this timber up, and I'm sure that our supplier, Burke, Parsons, Bowlby, who supplies ties to the railroad industry, we probably emptied their woodlot on more than one occasion, putting all of this up. The space above the ceiling that you see there has 6 inches of styrofoam, courtesy of a Kmart being torn down in Michigan. Now, halfway through the halfway through the roof work, we had a windstorm, and that managed to scatter styrofoam all over the neighborhood. And I'm sure there's still some ditches that have broken pieces of styrofoam in them. But we have gotten that all together. On a cold day, remembering that the floors are only heated to the end of stall 7 here. Even the stalls down to 18 will stay 40 to 50 degrees without any additional heat on a cold day, so that it works out very well. What do we use warmth and heat for anyway? It's something to do with condensation. You get these engines in here that haven't been exposed to sunlight for a day or so, and they're cool compared to the air coming in that is maybe more moist. You'll see condensation on these metal surfaces. We're trying to reduce that as much as possible, so we don't have any more condensation like the damage that's been done to 14's boiler here. 14 was on display in Sewickley, Pennsylvania, along with our 100-year-old bobber caboose. Our party caboose, it was used as a birthday party caboose when it was on display at Sewickley, north of Pittsburgh. Unfortunately, its interior has been stripped out, so there's more room for party. I think we are going to restore that interior, Dan, is that right?
I heard talk of it.
I thought so. All right, let's take a closer look at 14. 14 is the oldest and smallest engine in the collection. And by all means, if you have questions, do ask, because I'll blather along for an hour and a half otherwise. This engine was built in 1897 for Edwin Carnegie by Porter in Pittsburgh for his Duquesne works. Little bitty engine like this, you wouldn't think would do a lot of things, right? It's intended to go up to the furnaces with scrap and ore and pull later bottles of molten metal away from those furnaces, and to deliver that molten metal to places in the plant where they were casting things for sale to industry and to the public. Engineer was an envied man in the wintertime. Not so much in the summertime. One-man operation, by the way. This is truly a fully functional steam locomotive. If you look in here, you'll see some of the damage by corrosion and moisture. For us to put this back in operation, we'd have to build a new boiler. This is just too far gone. This will be used as a pattern in that case. Now, the engineer has control of about 160 pounds per square inch steam pressure to work with through the throttle valve in the steam dome to put steam into the cylinders. How many of you have worked around boilers in any shape or form? Anybody? You have? You have? How about pressure cookers, folks? Now that doesn't have a fire in it like our boiler does, but you use steam to process food. We use it to propel the engine and do work moving cars back and forth, okay? We do cook food in a locomotive like this. If an engine has been put into a siding along with a train behind it, typically there'll be enough of a heel built up that you can sit there with the shovel having been cleaned out, and you can cook bacon, eggs, sausage, that sort of thing. Not unusual. In our case, of course, we're not so much cooking that way, but if you have pizza, even cheap pizza, you can put it on the back end on one of these things overnight. By the following morning, with all that time to marinate, it's really good pizza. What happens when you've used the steam that's been used to push the pistons back and forth? You've got to get rid of it, right? Take a look here. The front end is set up to do several things. It's where the the tubes coming out of the firebox end here. Come on around so some of you can see this. And the smoke box is aptly named. All of the steam that's coming out of the cylinders, both sides, end up at the blast nozzle here and throw the steam through the chimney, or stack in this case, and it produces the chuffing sound that the engine makes when it's running. Doing that, it's also lowering the pressure in here. The only place that you can replace the air that's being exhausted here is through the fire, through the grates, that sort of thing. It's a self-sustaining kind of an operation, and it works very well. Very simple in concept. We have tried to do, I say by we, railroads in general had tried to improve the efficiency of steam locomotives, which are running between 8 and about 12%, compared to the diesel locomotives running to over 30%. Much improved. Plus the fact that diesel fuel at the time was only about 25 cents a gallon. Very cheap, very easy to obtain.
Okay guys, now I'm standing by the very famous 1278 locomotive that exploded on the Gettysburg Railroad in the early 1990s. It had the boiler, or the water level was low in the boiler, and it cracked, it deformed the crown sheet, and it created a backdraft explosion that blew out through the firebox. Didn't kill anybody, surprisingly. Everybody survived, but it just goes to tell you what you do if it was because of improper maintenance. And you can see, you can kind of see what it looks like now. Now it's here.
Quarter locomotive for the U.S. Navy. Our shop boss, Tim, has his dad was a longtime Navy man. His son is an engineer. He made the comment that that's a cute engine. So if you guys are looking for an interesting little engine to add to your collection, make sure you check with the wife and be sure that it's a cute.
You think that door is not going to move easily? You're wrong. Watch this.
That's how well balanced these doors are. Go ahead and push it back. Excellent. We're receiving from Baldwin for freight service. Unfortunately, none of the Challengers survived, but we do have the turntable. That was drug out of the pit at Hagerstown by a bulldozer. Didn't do the turntable any good. We had it sitting in two pieces out here in the open space, and spent a year repairing it. We got lucky. We went to the archive section at CSX in Jacksonville, Florida, and asked them if they had any information. The doors that you just walked through are 16.5 foot tall, 300 pounds a piece. And yes, there are about 100 bolts in each one of those. If you look at the bolt heads on the doors out here, we bought square head bolts by the...
So guys, we're down the Age of Steam roundhouse still, and here's Felix the cat. The famed Felix the cat. Oh, he's loving that browser. Guys, here's a picture of one of the famous camelback locomotives for the Reading Railroad. That's cool to see. You can see how the cab is in the middle. Not the greatest place to be. I'm right next to one of the sister engines of the 765, guys. This is 1 or 3 days older than the 765. Built the same year, same time. What a trooper. Look at the size of that. Now guys, did you really think I was just going to leave the video there? Of course I have pictures. This is a day after I went there. I'm getting packed up to go home. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was great to go back there and see all the endings again. And I hope you guys have a good time watching this video. And I suggest you go to the roundhouse and see this. It's a marvel to behold. Anyway, this is UNTOUCH.